Good evening, friends. It's your host, Max Mogren. This is Wake Up News. We have a two for today, two for Tuesday on the crucial topic of weather modification, climate modification, geoengineering, chemtrails, HARP, ionospheric heaters, cloud ionizers, cloud seeding, sounding rockets, satellite weather modification technologies, the film Geostorm, the $120 million disinformation flop out of Hollywood, stratospheric aerosol injection, ship tracks, contrail-induced cirrus, water vapor pollution, and good old-fashioned CO2. All the things affecting our climate. I'm sure I missed quite a few because climate, weather, very complicated systems. Luckily, we've got some very intelligent, independent journalists and researchers, talented people across the spectrum looking at it. This morning, we had Jim Lee from climateviewer.com on the show. And tonight, we have his partner in crime. Well, not in crime, partner in perhaps exposing crime, or at least revealing a bit more than the mainstream, that's for sure, on these topics. Domenic Marrama from weathermodificationhistory.com coming into the broadcast right now. Luckily, no technical difficulties tonight. Domenic, thank you so much for being on the show, joining us here at Wake Up News. Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much. Now, I don't know about you, but I got into this stuff, researching this stuff because I'm a skier. You know, I'm always studying the snow, the weather, and you're kind of in the same boat. Tell us a bit about yourself, where you're from, what you do for fun.
Well, I'm out here in the Rockies in Canada here, and on my spare time, I like to go snowboarding. So that's always fun, especially in Banff, Alberta, and Canmore. They got some of the best, sites that you could ever imagine. And on top of that, I have started a website called weathermodificationhistory.com with Jim Lee, and that's really taken off in the last year. And so far everything is going really well with that.
Yeah, it certainly is. I have to say, both you and Jim, you're putting out a great product there. Maybe product's the wrong word, but a great service to humanity with weather modification history. I'm going to bring that in because it's such a sexy website. And you guys have, how many articles do you have on here from historic newspapers and magazines and things?
I think currently we're sitting at around 550, and it's only increasing every single day. The more I find articles, the more it gets added to the database, and we're trying to create literally a database of newspaper archives, and not only newspaper archives, but like government archives from different organizations or universities or whatnot, and kind of compile them all into one place so that everyone can find it. Because, finding all this has taken me hours and painstaking research. It's crazy, but in the end, to have it all in one spot, it makes it easier for everyone else, and that's what it's about, is sharing information and getting the word out. So
I know I personally am a big fan of I love looking through old National Geographics, old newspapers and things. You're the primary researcher there. How do you find all these? Like, what's your trick? Because maybe we can get some more people to help you out and send some content your way.
Yeah, no problem. Well, basically the main search is just archives. I go onto different archives on whether it's university archives or government archives. It's usually a government organization or a university organization. But a lot of the articles I found just through Google newspapers, and you can go right onto Google, and they've open source newspapers to the world, hundreds upon hundreds, or probably thousands or hundreds of thousands of issues, I would imagine, just open source to the world. And you can search by keyword. So you just search different keywords in these different archives online, and you start to find articles that are buried in the deep web. And it's quite surprising to find them.
Yeah. When I first started waking up to this stuff a few years ago, I went to a lot of bookstores looking for old weather books. And I found a great one from the 70s called The Weather Machine by Nigel Calder. Have you ever seen that one?
I haven't, no.
I'm going to scan some pages in for you and send them your way because I think you'll get a kick out of it. It might be a good asset here. One thing I've noticed looking through here, I just keep scrolling because you got so many articles on here. But it seems like the coverage, back in the 50s and back in the late 40s, 50s, 60s, there was all like, here we go, we're going to send a man to the moon. We're going to tame Mother Nature. We're taking over. And then in the 70s, they're kind of like, well, maybe this isn't such a good idea. But then in the 80s, they're like, look what we can do again. I think maybe due to all the cocaine they were snorting back in the 80s. I don't know. But around the late 90s, it seems like the print media stopped reporting on this. Has that been your analysis?
It actually has. I'm going to be updating WeatherMod's newspaper section because I've actually probably found another 20 articles to 30 articles recently that are actually go past like the 1990s and into like the year 2000 and touch all the way up to the year 2004. And yeah, these articles that I'm finding, especially in the later years, are touching upon the airline industry and how they're now getting restrictions put on them. And especially with the Kyoto Protocol, which restricted airplanes to pollute less back in the day, which I'm sure they're not following obviously now. But nonetheless, it was being reported and there was actual laws being made to stop the airline industry from polluting or at least reduce it. And as soon as that started breaking in the news that, they were actually contributing to this, and including the IPCC, the International Panel on Climate Change, also had mentioned it in the past too, in like the 1990s and also the year 2000, and they started to go silent. And same with the newspapers; they've all gone silent. They stopped reporting on it after roughly the year 2000. They'll report it online in on online websites, but certainly not on like print newspapers that you would get, in the real world that you can tangibly feel. So it's a dying. It's a dying art for the news industry to actually tell the truth now, or even tell any sort of truth, even if it's just a shred of truth. And it's evident with them not even mentioning any of this anymore. And one of the reasons why it happened was because of 9/11 and the attacks. Obviously, all the planes were grounded, and when all the planes were grounded that day, the sky went blue, and the scientists had an aha moment. They're like, "Oh, here we go. There's no pollution in the sky because all the planes were grounded." And that's when they figured out the actual emissions from planes are causing the Earth to have dramatic, climatic effects, right? So, yeah, it's quite interesting.
Yeah, that was I remember reading about that years ago in a book called the Cloud Watchers Guidebook, and he mentioned that just in passing that they discovered that the daytime highs were higher, in the 3 days after 9/11, no planes, the temperatures were higher during the day, but then at night it got colder, and I believe the overall influence was a general cooling effect, right?
Yep.
So not much, but that was, again, it was just a couple of days over the United States.
Yeah.
And I think globally, it's been a few years since I looked into it, but there's something like 12,000 commercial planes in the air simultaneously globally, I believe is the figure I've read a few years ago.
So you can imagine, right? Just taking all those flights, especially, in the US there, and none of them are going up in the air, what that can cause, especially that many flights, right? So
yeah.
It was an eye-opener for the scientific community in meteorology and also the climate community as well. So they really started to see what was going on, and that's when whoever is running the show in the world and keeping this quiet decided, stop publishing in the newspapers and just go quiet on this now. And now they're back, but they're telling us that they're doing geoengineering and all this other stuff, So
Yeah, there's no shortage of online coverage of geoengineering, but like you said, it's pretty rare to see even an article on geoengineering in the print media.
Yep, that's true. That's true. And I think one of the problems that people are having, or not people, that the news that we've had is, as activists, is they keep changing the lingo up, right? Back in the day, it was rainmaking at the starting, right? And even pluviculture, which Jim Lee had taught me that term, which is essentially in the same category as rainmaking. And then, there's cloud seeding and weather modification. And those are a lot of the terms that were being used back in the day. And you don't see those terms being used anymore. Now it's geoengineering, and climate engineering and climate intervention and SRM, solar radiation management. It's a whole new sphere of words. And for people who knew about rainmaking and this stuff back in the day, it must be hard for them to then have to, especially if they're not aware of these terms, coming up. How would they know if they exist or not, right? So
yeah.
So if you change the lingo up, it makes it hard for people to actually, learn this stuff. It sets people back. So.
Well, and when they changed the lingo, I with Jim today, I showed it. I just went on Google and searched geoengineering, and it gives you the definition. And they define geoengineering as large-scale weather modification or large-scale climate modification, or they don't even say modification. They say programs designed to mitigate climate change, right? Yep. So that's a huge blanket statement there. And yep. Even the term geoengineering is kind of offensive. Engineering, like when your car breaks down, you don't zap it with a laser. You don't sprinkle a bunch of random chemicals on the hood and just see what happens. Yep. You don't have 100 different organizations all over the planet simultaneously working on your car. So the notion that we're engineering the climate gives it a little more credibility than it deserves when you've got dozens of countries, dozens of whether it's a utility company like Pacific Gas and Electric or the state of Wyoming or the country of Canada does it. There's so many different entities that are all fiddling around with the weather. It's not really like we're engineering the weather. It's more like we're kind of diddling the weather. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But the good news is there are people waking up, and lots of people too. Like, I know it doesn't seem, well, maybe it seems like it to some folks. To me, it doesn't. But that recent those hurricanes we had, Irma, and the other one, I forget what it was called.
Harvey,
yeah, thank you. Those ones that we had, if you go on Google Trends and you type in hurricane control in Google Trends, it will show you on the chart the global collective consciousness and what they were thinking in that period. And it spiked. The actual search term hurricane control had a huge jump during those two hurricanes, which means people were on Google typing in hurricane control, like really hungry for that information, right? So it's not like it's depressing that no one's taking any action or trying to wake up. They actually are. It's almost like you can't see it going on, right?
Yeah. Well, your website's got such a great service here. If anybody has any doubt about the situation, that was an article we just brought up from 1953, where they're saying the Weather Bureau, which is what the National Weather Service used to be called before Raytheon took over and they privatized it, blah, blah, blah. They're like, yeah, we're going to steer some hurricanes, see how it goes. And here, the Toledo Blade from Toledo, Ohio, September 1956. It's right there in English.
Yep. And that's exactly why Jim and I started this website together. And it's because it's not opinion-based, it's fact-based. We're not just grabbing, our opinion and writing an article on what we think this is, or grabbing someone else's opinion on what the article is. We're grabbing an actual newspaper article that's been printed, or a government document that's been printed, or a university document, or whatever it may be. It's not our opinions of the site. Like Jim and my opinion, we're not actually putting our opinion in our website. For the most part, it's mainly just factual information. And that's what makes it such a great website, because it's very hard to find those websites out there where people aren't shoving their own opinions in there. And there's certainly not any websites I found out there that have this many articles and newspapers all in one spot. And the main reason why I started this whole thing is because I was really tired of seeing my fellow activists getting attacked for asking simple questions, or being cornered by trolls or shills online asking, what proof do you have chemtrails are real? And it's like, oh, I couldn't stand that. It's like, there's so much proof out there, and to see, these other people get thrown to the dogs, and they might be just waking up to what's going on, and now they're they don't even want to get involved because someone out there has put them off.
Yeah.
Right. So this is why I've created this, or Jim and I have created this so that people have something there, so that they don't feel, like they're going to lose, hope in their battle to try and expose this with everyone else. So.
Well, and like you said, with the lingo changing, yesterday I had a great interview with a woman named Irene Lyon, and it sounds like a totally, off topic, but we were talking about stress and trauma. And she said the first step to dealing with stress and trauma is learning the lingo, or learning the language of healing, right?
Yep.
And right now, if without this resource that you and Jim have provided, 99% of the articles people are going to find right now are going to have the word geoengineering exclusively in it. A Google News search right now comes up with 45,000 news articles with geoengineering as a keyword. Yeah. So these old articles give people the lingo. And I think because it's such a scientific topic, it is a pretty complicated topic to discuss. A lot of activists are intimidated to take it on because they don't want to sound foolish, or they want to sound like they know what they're talking about. They want to do a good job and legitimately be able to convey it. And with this website, you give people this huge archive of proof, but also of, back in the day, they were a little more upfront. They were a little more honest. Like, yeah, we're going to try to steer this hurricane. Here we go. The Department of Defense is devoting $30 million to steering this hurricane. Yeah. And this official from the government said, we're going to give her hell, boys. It's like, it's all out there. And it's really cool to see.
It is.
I noticed on your page here, you got all these great articles, and this great picture you put up just yesterday. I think it has over 300 shares already, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I made that the other day. It probably took me about 2 hours to make because I had to place over 500 newspaper articles into one spot. But yeah, it was well worth it. This graphic here, I actually is like kind of like going back to that topic that we were just talking about, where fellow activists are getting cornered into not even wanting to try anymore because of shills out there, putting them down or whatnot. And that's why I made this, because they can simply just post this, and what is that person going to say, right? Like, it's got all the information there. Sure, they can make a comment about it, but 9 times out of 10, ever since I've started this weather mod thing with Jim Lee, next to no shills or trolls bother me, because it's fact-based. They can't deny it. You can't refute it. They can't do anything about it. So the only thing they can do is make fun of you without actually attacking the content. And that's what ends up happening. So, which is fine. I don't care. Go ahead.
Yeah, there's no shortage of people making fun of other people on the internet. Can you tell us a little bit about the timeline history you guys have got put up here? I know you got the featured posts, but how many excerpts are in this timeline? And, what else can people find on weathermodificationhistory.com? So
yeah, in the top hand corner there's a drop down menu that opens up the full list of feature articles there.
Yeah.
And that'll get you to the whole list, and it's got tons of different articles and stuff like that. But mainly we're still working on it, Jim and I, the site, to actually add more stuff. What's going to end up happening is each article that I've found, and Jim and I have found, we're going to turn into an actual post, a separate post that someone can share onto a page, as opposed to just in one spot as a picture. So it's a work in progress, the site, but yeah, there's still lots of stuff on like Project Cirrus that you have there, and Project Storm Fury and Mod, like Jim had mentioned many times before. So it's a good starting, and it's also, I think, links to Jim's website, Climate Viewer. So yeah, it's just a good resource for people to use, pretty much. And one of the other things I wanted to mention here was, where is it? Yeah, so our timeline goes back to roughly the 1800s. That's where the majority of our articles start. It's usually actually the 90s, 80s, somewhere around there, or 1880s, sorry, and 1890s. And then there is one article I actually did find that I found in the American Meteorological Society, and it was titled, it was of a gentleman named Benvenuto Cellini, and he was a rainmaker and a royalty back in the day. And for his wedding, it said in this archive in the American Meteorological Society in the 1500s that he, during the wedding, was firing guns and he produced rain. And then if you look through the Weather Mod archive, even in I think it's the 1940s or 30s or something like that, there was an article that was released that is titled, "Does Gunfire Produce Rain?" And that's speeding up way ahead. So there was a gentleman back in the 1500s, an article that is, I'm pretty sure is on Weather Mod as well, of them trying to create rain back in the day and it being scientifically documented and put in the American Meteorological Society. So quite amazing, groundbreaking stuff, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's fascinating too, throughout history. I mean, even the Native Americans, people talk about the rain dance, and different cultures, different religions, different civilizations throughout history have all obviously been very concerned about the weather and have made attempts to control the weather. And so it's really no shocker that the powers that shouldn't be, the people who are in control, the people with all the money and all the toys, all the technology, of course they're going to try to do this stuff because it's something humans have been trying to do for thousands of years.
Yep, it's true.
I've got a guy on the show tomorrow named Seth Lyon, and he's one of those guys that goes deep into the unwritten history, and he's talking about the great flood that they talk about in the Bible. And I'm still reading his book right now, but basically he argues that there was an advanced civilization that knew how to mess with the weather, and it bit him in the ass. And that's where the great flood came from.
It's quite possible. Who knows, right? Like anything's possible, right? I certainly don't believe that, what they've taught us about our history and where we've come from and how everything is the way it is not true. And most people can resonate with that.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah, so it should be a good show again tomorrow too. But let's keep talking about your stuff because it's so fascinating. I didn't even know this until the other day. This great article you've got here about the CIA Project Blue Nile, stranger than fiction. Everybody knows about Operation Popeye during the Vietnam War, but tell us just a little about Blue Nile, if you would, because it's new to me.
Blue Nile was just a project that the CIA did with weather modification, and in the end, they ended up publishing articles on it, and it can even be found on the CIA's website in the Freedom of Information, I think, requests.
Yeah, FOIA.
Yeah, exactly. And you can go right on there and pull newspaper articles about Blue Nile and their cloud seeding projects. I don't know too much on Blue Nile. That was an article Jim found, but I've been looking at finding more on that article, actually, to tell the truth. And I have looked in the last couple of weeks into Blue Nile to try and do some archive digging, and it's actually really hard to find any information on it whatsoever. And especially with all the archives I've found and dug through and resources I have, that's a project that's very, very secret, and for good reason, because obviously the CIA was involved. So
yeah,
but Jim could comment on that a little better than I could for sure.
Right on. Another good one here, the NMOD treaty. Using the weather as a weapon has been banned by the UN since 1978, right? Yep. So technically anybody who's opposed to these things has got at least on paper, we got the law on our side, so that's good. Got that going for us.
Yeah, totally. We just need to get all the cops and everyone else on our side to actually, do their jobs properly.
Yeah, easier said than done, right?
Yeah, exactly. I know it's tough. It's real tough. But
one thing I noticed too, we've got to get you guys a bigger reach here too. I mean, I know you've only been doing this for a year, but it's such a high-grade website. Such an incredible service, and so I encourage anybody who's watching this, do go to Weather Modification History on Facebook, share it, like it, get notifications, because these are fun. This is fun stuff to learn about. And if it shows up in your news feed at the top, you get one article a day from weather modification history. Spend 5 minutes learning some history. Like, it's kind of fun. I
And
always love reading old
there's
newspapers.
also a video section on the Facebook page there that has a video archive that we've started. Not quite as many videos as articles, but certainly still a good chunk of videos for people to start watching. And it's a good place to start. And the problem with videos is most of them were black and white back in the day, and any information on this is really hard to come by. So the majority of it is in print and not in video. But if anyone finds video, let me know. I'd be very happy to see it.
I'm sure you've seen that Walt Disney video, right?
Yeah, Eyes in Outer Space.
Yeah, that's a classic.
Yes, there's some crazy ones. Like I have cartoons from Walt Disney. One's titled Porky the Rainmaker, and another one is I think also another Disney movie or short film titled Farmer Alfalfa and the Dry Spell, I think is what it's called. And these are rainmaking oriented cartoons that the government made back in the day. So they were openly showing it to the kids.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, there was kind of more of, it seemed like it was, in some ways, it was a lot more open society back then. They might lie about the reasons for going to war, but they weren't really hiding technology from people, at least one would think.
That's true.
One thing I noticed here, I was looking through this today on your site, and you got 300 people shared this, and a lot of them are really big, some are really big pages, but I'm always floored. I'll go through this on my sites too. And I notice you get all these shares, but very few likes on those shares. Have you ever noticed that?
Yeah, I do, because I do that with my page sometimes. Every once in a while, every couple of days, I'll share a post, maybe like to 40 groups, just to try and, from WeatherMod, my WeatherMod page, just to see if I can get some followers and people that are interested in WeatherMod to check out the Facebook and actually subscribe to our Facebook and our website. But yeah, you're right. It is tough. It's tough. I think the reason why it's tough with WeatherMod, our website and our Facebook, is because the generation nowadays they want videos. They want something that they're not interested so much in reading. And that's half our battle, because if we want people to, or if we want to overcome this issue, people are going to have to become educated and start reading this stuff, as opposed to just watching a video and looking at someone else's opinion. It's just not going to work nowadays. And that's why I found all these articles, is because I've had to actually research. Like a year ago or 2 years ago, I didn't know much on the majority of the stuff that I've researched already with WeatherMod. WeatherMod didn't even exist a year and a half ago. And I knew about chemtrails. I knew about HARP. I knew about weather modification and geoengineering and climate engineering. I knew about all the terms, but I didn't really know, I just knew what people had shared online, like videos and stuff like that, of their own opinions and stuff like that. And, I saw the 22 weather as a force multiplier document and stuff like that. There's a couple good ones online. But yeah, so it's really helping this resource for people to use it as traction. And use it to bring to their representatives too, right? It's easier to go to one of your representatives and try and wake them up and be like, hey, look, there's this great encyclopedia of facts and resources in newspapers and stuff like that. And as opposed to give them a website that just shows someone's video that's talking about chemtrails and stuff like that, it's still good, mind you, but you're not going to get through to the people that are actually making the decisions in the world that are actually going to bring about the change we need. So,
well, that's what's so great about your service, is that it's all right there. It's completely irrefutable, and it's crystal clear. And I have to say though, I think part of the reason there's no likes on a lot of these too is just because somebody shares something, even if somebody's got 3,000 friends and they share it, I don't know if anybody's really seeing it. You know what I mean? Yeah. Something, it's like Kootenai Geoengineering Watch. That's small, but you'll have a page with like 10,000 likes will share your your graphic, and it will get no likes. It's like, that's kind of weird. I guess that's more of a note for the viewers there. If you really want to get the message out, if you really want to share information, be good to get yourself an email list going with your close friends, because there are other ways to get information out than just social media. And let's say you put together, like, one thing you can do at home. We got 40 viewers watching right now. If each of you put together a list of your 10 closest friends, you could share this video by email, and they're going to see it with 400 people right there. So just letting people know that the social networks don't, they like to keep topics like this in a little box, right? Your video is not gonna have, Beyonce might share a video of her daughter eating SpaghettiOs and it'll get 40 million views. But you could make like the best video ever on weather modification, and it could follow the same viral trajectory initially, but it's going to get capped, is what I'm saying. So just letting the viewers know that we're doing this for you, and you can help us out too by getting creative and crafty with your ways of sharing information.
But you are right. It is a tough battle out there in the Facebook world, and with trying to get the information out to people and trying to get them to grasp it. But that one meme I had showed you there, or that you had pulled up on your screen, that one there really, I've noticed, compared to a lot of the other stuff we've shared, it got a lot of likes and a lot of shares, and that's because, going back to the thing I was saying before, people don't want to read. They want something that's quick, flashy, and they can share to someone and not have to think about it anymore. And that's one of the problems we're having in the movement, is that's getting us nowhere. And I'm not saying that sharing it's not getting us nowhere. I'm just saying them not actually going out and doing this work themselves is not helping our cause, right? We need everybody in this. Like, if you're concerned about, weather modification and you don't want it happening, instead of just sharing something and being like, okay, well, I hope it stops after sharing it, it's not going to work, right? And I've created this huge database with Jim Lee, and look, like you were saying, look how many people are reviewing it, right? So it's a tough battle for sure.
Kristen Boyson chimed in there. She says, my crafty way is to post a teaser, like a comment, and then put the link in the comments of the teaser that she puts out. I've seen a lot of people do that. I know Derek Bros will do that too, where he'll write a little blurb, and then he will share all the stories he wants to bring to people's attention in the comment. Because I've noticed that too. It's like if you write like a little heartfelt message, it goes a long way with your friends.
Yeah, you're right. That's totally true. I've noticed that as well too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Another thing people can do is, there's nothing to stop people from, write a letter to the editor of your local newspaper, and don't just write a letter to the editor, but post it on Facebook and tag the local newspaper and tag the editor in the post. And then you're like calling them out, like, hey, you going to print this, or is it just going to be here on Facebook as a constant reminder that you won't cover this stuff? So remember, friends, there's so many ways you can get crafty, and that's what it's going to take is, look at the work that Dominic's doing. Look at the work that people like Jim Lee are doing. These are the kind of initiatives that are really going to help get the word out here, because, the research is done. And now it's time for people to educate themselves with the resources that are available to them.
Yeah, and I don't know if people are wondering, who are just listening in on this right now, who Jim Lee is, but he's got the website, climateviewer.com. And it's a great resource, so check it out for sure.
Yeah. Will you be going to that weather modification or climate modification conference in Austin with him on January 8th?
He asked me, and I unfortunately can't, but maybe next year for sure. I definitely would love to go. It's just a little bit short notice, and quite frankly, it's quite a bill to be footing to get over there. So I'm more than happy to help Jim get over there, so that at least we have someone over there on the ground, finding out what the newest technologies are going to be for weather modification and climate coming up.
Yeah, I want to get there too, but if the snow's too good around Wyoming, I might just have to stay here and skeet some powder instead. I love this one you found here, man. This one's just a classic. It's got Seagram's whiskey. It's got this dude slaying powder. It's from 1947, and it even has the airplane spraying a nice little trail there to give him the man-made snow for pleasure and profit. I think that's the funniest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. There's actually another article that almost goes hand in hand with that one, and it's an article, or not even an article to tell the truth. I wasn't old enough to remember this, but anyone who smokes cigarettes back in the day, they used to have cards that came in your smoke packs, like almost like a trading card. And they actually had I found online a trading card that used to come in your pack of smokes that had on it weather control. It even said weather control on it. It had the tower, like this huge, similar to this one right here that I got in front of me.
Yeah. You know, I saw that image earlier. I'm trying to bring it up. It's got like the Wardenclyffe Tower.
Yeah, so this is of a gentleman named William Haight, and he was in California, and he used to manipulate the weather by using ions, and he would just use electricity and manipulate the weather from his tower. On top of his tower, he made some sort of a device that was able to manipulate the weather. It's quite amazing stuff. And that was in Popular Science, if anyone's wondering. It's stuff like this you'll see on WeatherMod. Rain-making tower.
Here, let me bring that up to full size here. Let me get you to full size because I really want to see that one. All right, lay it on us. Can you show us that one more time?
Yeah, for sure. No problem.
Thanks, man. Yeah, and now, you know, that's a good segue actually into another topic there is that great graphic that Jim put together today from weather modification history about the various technologies. I wonder if that's the best. I think it's probably better to bring it up on, here we go. Never mind. 1 second, friends, bear with me. I'm still learning how to drive this thing.
Mm-hmm.
Here we go. Yeah, there we go. So you were just mentioning this guy had this crazy tower. It looked a little like a Wardenclyffe Tower. And that technology is being used today, right? I think it's number 6 on the list of 10 technologies to own the weather today. You want to tell us a little bit about the cloud ionizers?
Yeah, so just the cloud ionizers, they're able to manipulate the ions in the upper atmosphere, or ionosphere, I guess you could say. So yeah, there's not much to the technology. Other than the fact that it's just another form of technology that they're using to beam microwaves up into the sky, and it's able to affect the ions in the atmosphere, which can create, nuclei and in turn create water and affect the weather. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. The way I've described it to people is similar to when lightning strikes. You can see the visible interactions of ions colliding with each other and creating lightning and stuff like that. That's ions interacting with each other because they're everywhere. You just can't see them. And that's similar to what they're using these machines for, is they're able to affect the stuff that we can't see. And by using microwaves, they're able to affect those ions that are hitting each other in lightning that you can visibly see, and they're able to affect those and create weather changes from that, right? So
yeah, such a fascinating topic, just utterly mind-blowing. This article that Jim put out, really good. If anybody hasn't seen it yet, it's on climateviewer.com, and it lays out those 10 technologies. So it's worth checking out. It's really long, though. I'm not going to scroll through all that because, if you really want to read it, you got to get into it. Back to weather modification history. Let's see what else. So what should we be doing right now? This archive, obviously there isn't very much print media on the topic right now. How should we be archiving modern coverage on this topic? Is that something you're looking into, or
yeah, that's one of the things I was going to go segue into, and that's how WeatherMod doesn't have a whole lot about recent stuff going on. And that's one thing that Jim and I are going to be filling in the gap eventually, in bringing it up to speed with a lot of the more newer stuff. But we wanted to really hit the back end of the history of weather modification, because without history, how are you supposed to know what they're doing in the future, right?
Yeah.
So, and especially if you know the history, you can kind of have a gauge as to what their next plans are. So it helps. It helps unveil their next moves, I guess.
Have you been following the situation in Puerto Rico at all in the wake of the hurricanes that hit there, Hurricane Maria, and how they still don't have the power on? To a lot of the island is still without power. It's kind of mind blowing.
Yeah, it's crazy, and it's only gonna get worse, right? Because obviously with these engineered events, I always like to tell people that weather modification causes climate change. That's the key word for people to understand or climate engineering causes climate change. Because it does. When you're actually interfering with the weather, you're causing the climate to change. So all these newscasters that are saying climate change, this and that, I tell them, yeah, weather modification causes climate change. It's an easy way for people to grasp and understand what you're saying in simple terms, pretty much.
Well, another thing people get hung up on, they think of the climate as like this grandiose thing, but really the official definition of climate is the weather averages of an area over time. So any weather modification technology that's employed for long periods of time is affecting the climate, because climate is just weather over time, or like the averages over time. So,
true.
Yeah. We could talk about that stuff all the time or all day long. I made some stickers years ago that said, I was using the word chemtrails, but they're good, like little 3x3. Good. There you go. Yeah, that's a good shirt.
I'll back up for you. So I designed this T-shirt.
Oh, I gotta get one of those. How do I buy one?
I'll ship you out one for sure.
I want to buy one.
It's titled Weather Warfare, and you got Harp right under here.
Dude.
A little guy just standing there all depressed with trails or 2 plane trails going overhead, and then you get that Ripley sky effect sometimes, and you just know that the sky ain't real.
The mackerel sky, so to speak.
Yeah.
Historically, that's the funny thing too, is you'll see clouds like that, in an old meteorology textbooks we've got, they mention clouds like that have a repeating pattern. But generally, they don't cover the entire sky with this perfectly uniform pattern, and doesn't happen every day. And nowadays, we see that all too commonly all over the place. How did we like to look at like the human side here. How did you first become aware of this stuff, and what drove you to do the great work that you're doing? Can I ask that?
Yeah, sure. The first when I first woke up to all this, like everything, chemtrails, and just really thinking something was going wrong, was back in 2008, and I was on my balcony high rise, and it was about 30 stories high, and I was at like the 28th story. So whenever I went on my balcony, I would have like full sky view, and it was gorgeous. And so one day I woke up and it was, 10 o'clock in the morning, and it was clear blue sky, like absolutely clear and perfect. And it was a nice fall day, actually just before fall. And I noticed within about 3 hours, there were so many trails, and I'm talking like 50 trails. Like I couldn't count them anymore. I lost count. And it just right there, it set me off. And I'm like, there's obviously something not right about what's going on in our skies. And then just from there, I took off, right? And I started researching and finding out what's going on. But originally, before I got into that, my activism started in like vaccines and how vaccines are not good for you and stuff like that. And I was actually helping a gentleman named Dr. Andrew Mogren, who was a great Canadian doctor. And he was going out pretty much and doing speeches in front of thousands of people. And he's a doctor, Canadian physician, about how vaccines are bad. And then I only knew him for 2 years when he was doing that. And then it really started to get weird, and I lost contact with him. He got thrown into a psych ward, and then he ended up dying. He was the weirdest thing in the world. And that was back before I woke up about chemtrails, and that really freaked me out. And then in 2008, I was like, okay, what's all this happening now? And I was like, oh my God, this isn't right either. So it was just like one thing after another for me. And then, I when I discovered WeatherMod, more or less all these articles was only a year ago, September 11th, 2016. And I had stumbled across, well, maybe a little bit before then, but around that time is when I started. And I was on Google, and I came up onto Google newspapers and found a random newspaper article on nothing weather related. It was like I was doing a search and I found something totally different than WeatherMod. And it was on Google newspapers. And I realized, hey, I'm on this thing called Google newspapers right now. Let's see if there's anything to do with WeatherMod on there. And then holy crap, it just started. After I typed that into Google newspapers, like weather control or weather warfare or rainmaking or whatever the heck it was, it just, all the articles started coming out at once. And I'm like, oh my God, there's been a hidden resource of articles here this whole time on the internet, and no one's found them. I was like, this is insane. So
I'm so glad that you found them, and you couldn't ask for a better guy to be on this project, because you've had to make these look good. I know you're a graphic designer. Have you? And so, like, a lot of these, probably the scans weren't very good, but
yeah, it does require.
Do you go in there and like brighten up the colors and the contrast and everything?
Yeah, each image I've done on WeatherMod has probably taken about, I would say, anywhere from 15 to, or probably 10 to 20 minutes. And then you multiply that by 500, 550 articles, and that's how much Photoshop time you have into it. But yeah, I've won 2 international design awards for graphic design, specifically, one in 2016 and one in 2015 for websites and vehicle wrap design. So I do vehicle wraps and stuff like that, and you can also see some of my work on, if you go to cansign.com, C-A-N. So if you type that in, cansign.com, that's mainly the main majority of my work I do. I design signs and big freestanding signs, and yeah, it's the sky's the limit. We have 2 huge printers that I run that are like 50 or they're huge. They're massive. It's crazy. The level of work we do is like no other place. So it's really cool, the work that I do. I'm glad to have a job that I enjoy, for sure.
That's great. So yeah, anybody needs some signs done, hit up Domenic. This is just for clarity, this is a truck that you wrapped it to make it look real old,
that's
right?
the truck I actually won an international design award for, and I won that back in 2015, and it was that's actually a brand new truck that you're seeing right now, but it's actually a sticker, a big sticker, a vehicle wrap, and the design there, that rusty look, took me about, I don't know, 60 hours to design. So it was quite a design feat, for sure. And yeah.
And is your logo actually on the side there, or did you just Photoshop that in?
Yeah, the logo is actually underneath that, but it's like, looks like it's been like hit, like, you know what I mean, like really old and tattered, and there's only chips and pieces of it. So on the company website there, we just threw the logo over top so that people can visibly see it. But in real life, it looked really nice and authentic and genuine, and that grunge look. It was really cool.
That is super cool. So yeah, anybody needs some work done for graphic design, hit Domenic up. Clearly, he knows what he's doing. People want to buy T-shirts. Dory Blackney saying, how much to get one of those T-shirts out to Australia? Are you selling those, Domenic?
Yeah, we actually do have some with our website on it. We're in the middle right now of working on a shopping cart for our website, weathermodificationhistory.com. And once we have that up there, then we'll be selling the T-shirts pretty soon. So if you want, you can also send us an email through our WeatherMod page, just letting us know who your name is and that you're interested in getting one and your rough size of what you would want to wear. And we'll try and, when we do set up the cart, we'll try and catch up on all the emails and email them out to everyone so that we can get you your shirts, because I certainly want to get you your shirt if you like the shirt.
Jim Lee's in the house. He says, "What's up, dog?"
Right. You made it.
Jim, thanks for tuning in. We had a great interview with Jim earlier, despite the technical difficulties, but we came up with a low-tech solution to a high-tech problem this morning. It was a lot of fun. Domenic, what else should we talk about? Does anybody have any questions for Domenic? Lay it on him. Zach Coons at Wake Up News is asking, "Do we need work done?" Of course we need work done, Zach, but I don't think we can afford Domenic. I don't think we can afford him. He's too good for us. He's won awards. Plus, he's a busy man. He's a busy man. Jim's saying his internet skills failed him. It was. I'm sharing the story here because Domenic hasn't heard it yet. Well, maybe he's heard a little of it, but nobody else has, maybe. But today, the indomitable Jim Lee, arguably the most prolific researcher on the topic of geoengineering on the planet, one of the most brilliant minds of our generation, for real, was having a serious connectivity issue resulting from his bandwidth limitations of living in the middle of Podunk, South Carolina. I think that's, or excuse me, on the outskirts of Podunk, South Carolina. Is how Jim described it. And, he's got an upload limit to like 1 megabyte. Of course, because Jim's high quality, man, he's got his webcam set to 1080p HD, and it just won't process properly. Can't get the full signal. But somebody had the brilliant idea of just putting a piece of tape over the webcam, and then it was just transmitting audio plus a black screen after that, and dropped the bandwidth substantially. Anyway, sorry. I just thought that was funny. It was a funny experience. So, Domenic, what else are we talking about? What do you want to talk about?
One of the things I wanted to tell your viewers is that we also bit of an echo now.
It sounds okay here.
One of the things I wanted to say was with regards to the website. So we will be getting our shop up here hopefully relatively soon, and we're also working on a weekly newsletter. So stay tuned for our weekly newsletter. Go onto our website, weathermodhistory.com, and subscribe to our newsletter there. And then you'll get weekly updates as to what's going on with where we want to take WeatherMod and any updates that you may be interested in. So it's definitely worth checking out. And so there's a lot of good stuff in the future coming down for WeatherMod. It's just got to get to building it. That's a lot of work. So
just for clarity's sake, where do I sign up for your newsletter here on the website?
Scroll down a little bit.
Yeah.
It says, keep scrolling somewhere right there.
Okay, there it is. Got it. So it's below the featured post, guys. Get on there, sign up. Again, because of the work these fine gentlemen are doing, Jim and Domenic, odds are you're not going to see too much of their stuff in your news feed because, independent media, independent researchers, they try to keep us in a little box. So if we can get people to subscribe to newsletters, if these guys can get a list of 10,000 email addresses they can send out alerts to or updates to, these are the kind of people you want, sharing information with you, especially if the situation on the planet takes a turn for the worse and the social media networks get shut down or get censored even worse. It'd be nice if you're like at home, you don't know what's going on, Facebook's down, or Facebook's just showing you scroll through your news feed on Facebook and it's just cat picture. There's somebody eating their Soylent Green because the population's been reduced to that. You go to look for Jim Lee or Domenic, and they don't have a presence on Facebook anymore. Their pages have been taken down. Well, that's the time when you really you'll be grateful that you signed up for their mailing list, because these guys will be paying attention to what's going on for as long as they're able to. No doubt about that. Let's see what else. I'm out of questions here. You answered all my questions.
So one of the other things I'll go into a little bit more into something else, and that was recently the tower video you saw of me talking to the tower.
Oh yes, thank you.
Yeah, so I went up to a communications tower guy in Canmore, Alberta, and they were I guess fixing one of those large fake pine tree towers that they have for communication purposes. Apparently, they say.
Yeah.
One of the, after talking to the guy and going up to him, one of the workers that was actually working on one of the cell towers, I got him to openly admit to me that they emit microwaves, and they don't want to admit that sort of stuff. These types of people, because the minute they admit that it's emitting microwaves, well, now it's a public health hazard, and they certainly don't want to get that out. So it was quite interesting for him to actually release that tidbit of information that they're using microwaves. And then on top of that, ever since I released that video that's on my Facebook wall with the towers, I've had people who work in the industry, in the tower industry, setting up the towers as tower riggers or whatnot. And I've had one guy tell me that you're doing a good job, and yeah, they're not telling us the full truth with these towers and stuff like that, and they're even keeping us in the dark, the ones that are working on the towers. And this is a guy who personally messaged me, and I go onto his Facebook wall, and he's working on towers and his pictures in his Facebook. So I know he's legit. And on top of that, I also went to Facebook groups. So I started stalking these, or not stalking, but looking into these cell tower guys and looking at what groups they're on in Facebook. And then I actually surprisingly got into some of the groups. There's cell tower groups where it's only like 1,500 to 2,000 people, but it's like only cell tower people of looking for jobs or talking with each other, cell tower lingo, right? So I actually got into one of these groups, and this was only a couple of weeks ago. And surprisingly enough, there were actually people in the group that were admitting it right in the group themselves, that they've been working on towers for 20 years and now they're getting all sorts of cancers and problems and stuff like this. And they were commenting in the Facebook group with the towers, and these are tower workers, to other tower people that they are getting sick from doing this. I couldn't believe it. I was like, wow, they're actually admitting to this right in their actual group. If only other people, if this was exposed and people could see that this was happening, then it would really, bring some good awareness on this issue of how dangerous these towers are. So.
Yeah, and now they're trying to roll out the 5G network coast to coast, and basically that involves putting a microwave tower. What do they operate at? 60,000 to 200,000 gigahertz or something? What is it? I don't know.
I'm not too sure the technical specs, but definitely not good, I would imagine.
Yeah, they say that this is just so you know, this is an organization that's actually based here in Wyoming. A woman named Deborah Davis, who's got some astonishing credentials, and she's been working hard at the Environmental Health Trust. And she wrote a book years ago called Disconnect on the topic of this stuff. And it's creepy, man. It really is creepy. And the notion of putting these, they operate at the same frequencies that are used for like the crowd control weapons, right? Where they can.
Well, what scares me the most is that you can go online, you can just go on YouTube and type microwave on a stick.
Yeah.
And these kids that do experiments, or not kids, but university students who do experiments with an actual microwave on literally a stick, just like a stick, in their backyard, and they're like blowing shit up, like at random with microwave energy. So if you can do that. Yeah, if you can do that exactly. If you can make a microwave on a stick, what are those huge fucking microwaves on sticks doing? Like massive sticks, right? Like that's what concerns me the most. Yeah, exactly, right? Like just blowing stuff up. And that's not even a lot of power. That's very, very minimal. The power
you gotta love the Russians. Look at this guy just going for it. He's like, here you go, kids. Get your Phillips head out. What? A microwave oven radius is 10,000 Wi-Fi routers, 5,000 cell phones, and 30 cell towers. So they're making the point that the microwave is more powerful. But you notice there, you look at the power cord on the back of that microwave. It's just a standard power cord.
You're right.
And then you look at the power cords they got going into these cell towers.
Yep.
And it's like, what the fuck? Pardon my French. But what the fuck do you need 20 cords that are each stick around as a donkey dick going into this goddamn tower for. You know what I mean? I mean, it's shocking what they got. It's shocking what they're doing there.
It's true.
You know, the capacity that they can run through these. I mean, why do you need such a gigantic power cord if you're just transmitting, little cell signal?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So yeah, there's obviously a lot more questions. It creates a lot more questions than it does answers, for sure.
Yeah. Well, like you said, you were dealing with the vaccine thing before you woke up to the weather modification thing. And I mean, that's disturbing. You look at the food situation, there's a lot of issues out there. I put out some videos on the topic of, legitimate depopulation agenda stuff. And it's something that can be depressing to think about at first, but it's something we all need to be aware of because it's real. Look at these guys. I like these guys. People, the mainstream media tells us that Russians are our enemies, but these guys are just awesome. Yeah, there you go. I'm subscribing to Creoson for sure right now on the air. These guys are all right. Dominic, thank you. You just blew my mind with that.
I know, right? Like a microwave on a stick. That's what I tell people. Go watch that video and then look at what they're setting up everywhere. Because if it can do that, what else can it do, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, and you think about it, there it looked like when they blew up those cell phones with the microwave, it looked like the microwave, must have been interacting with the batteries in the cell phones, caused the batteries to overheat, or, it caused a serious chemical reaction in the batteries of those phones. And
there's some good stories out there too. Like there's this one gentleman who used to work for the cell phone tower companies. I don't know how long. I think it was 10 years or something like that. And he realized what he was doing and how it was so bad and it was hurting people and stuff like that, that he went out and he started like taking these things down with his own makeshift tank.
I'm bringing these guys back in because I was watching the video on the side and it just is more and more fun. So I'm just leaving it there. Yeah. Sorry. So this guy who was in the cell phone industry for years was taking them down with the tank.
Yeah, he went out and started actually physically going around town and trying to rip down the cell phone towers with his tank. And that's because he knew what was going on and he really just had enough. And
yeah. Well, I think it's important that people be aware of that. It's like, okay, if, let's just say hypothetically here, if there was at some point in the future of the United States, maybe having an AR-15 under your desk might not necessarily save your ass. That might be kind of fun, might make you feel good, make you sleep good at night, but that AR-15 might not save you because, you try to pick it up, it's too hot. Yeah, the cell phone tower's cooking your ass. People don't think of that. Your best friend, when shit hits the fan, might be a big bolt cutter, so you can go snip those cables at your local cell phone towers. Think about that, my friends.
That's true, right? That's what's gonna have to happen one day. Is people are just gonna have to revolt, right? I don't know how else it's gonna happen because, it's like that story of that cop who used to issue traffic tickets all the time. And red light tickets, and he actually got so sick of red light camera tickets one day that when he decided he quit his job and he was done his job, he started going around hitting all the cameras with a painter's extension rod, and that's all he had to do was just go around town and hit them once. And he's like, that's all you do. You take your power back like this, and let's go on to the next one. And that's all he did, and
right?
He's like hundreds upon hundreds of people, countless tickets that otherwise they shouldn't have gotten because it literally was a racketeering scam by the government.
Yeah. So there you go, friends. Remember, if anybody hasn't read The Monkey Wrench Gang by the indomitable Edward Abbey, highly recommend that book. And, like we saw with those, it's funny, have you been following the crazy wildfires in California recently, or the ones in Canada? I think they called it I forget the name, but a few years ago, a wildfire in Canada where all these houses just literally got burnt to a crisp, burnt down to the foundation, and steel melted. And I was watching a video today, and this guy he'd been a firefighter in Northern California since 1981. A guy
Yep.
who was a fire, he wasn't a fire chief, but he was a fire captain.
Yeah,
So
I
second
saw
in
that
command.
video.
Have you seen that video?
Yeah, he went out and he was in his own living room, all genuine and heartfelt, and he was just telling people like, "Look, I'm a fire captain. I have this much experience, and
Yeah.
based on what evidence I've gathered, it's not adding up." Is what he pretty much went on.
Yeah, well, he said straight up, like looking at the dynamics, what are the ignition metrics, the behavior of the fire, the temperatures that would be attained in order to melt all the metal, melt. He said he'd seen images where it was like the engine block of cars had been melted through, and the people reporting these strange blue lights, all this stuff.
Wow.
It's, I don't know.
Well,
I don't want to go too far out on a limb, but at the same time, it's like, well, if you got these crazy cell phone towers everywhere with these giant cables going into them, and they can emit, high-powered microwaves, these Russian kids here in their creative experiments video are showing you what you can do with just a tiny little microwave oven, a standard microwave. So imagine what happens if you got microwave towers all over the place. Dominic, that's a great way to clue people into this thing.
Yeah, exactly, right? Just something simple like that, get them used to the fact that even just a small amount is very, potentially dangerous. So when you give other people this much power to amplify that and multiply it exponentially, it can't create something good for sure. Definitely.
Yeah, it's like that's how I actually made a video on the topic, how to create a catastrophic wildfire with your microwave. And what happens when you put aluminum or whatever in a microwave? We all know what happens. Here's my video. How to start catastrophic wildfires with a microwave. This isn't my microwave. I'm not as bold as those Russians, but there's what happens when you put aluminum foil in a microwave, right? It reacts very effectively. Whereas, my little experiment, just clowning around, I put a bunch of leaves and pine needles and stuff in a microwave. It's like, look, you throw this stuff in the microwave, it doesn't react. But, if you zap a tree with a microwave, it's not going to burst into flames. But if you zap a house that has a bunch of metal appliances in it, a house that has a bunch of metal fasteners, all the screws and nails and the pipes, all the electrical, all the metal in the house is going to react. And so if my house ever burns down, it's nice knowing y'all. Same with Dominic. Yeah. Anyway, we could talk about this stuff all night. What else you want to cover, Dominic?
I think that's pretty much the majority of it, I'd say. Yeah.
Right on. So everybody get your bolt cutters. Get your Weather Warfare t-shirts directly from Domenic Marrama. We got to get him selling those. Make sure you subscribe to the mailing list at weathermodificationhistory.com. Remember, social media is not your friend. It's useful sometimes, but like Jim was saying today, go to the websites you actually want to learn from and get on there and actually put the work in, learn the stuff, learn the lingo, learn how to persuade people, and please do it, because everybody makes a difference. And I don't know about you, but in my own life, every day, like basically, I don't really consider this work. You know what I mean? Like my activism is not work. If I go to the grocery store, I'm going to tell the lady at the checkout why I'm buying fluoride-free toothpaste.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell it to her in a sweet way that makes her want me to take her daughter out on a date, because that's just how I roll. You know what I mean?
Yeah, hey, that's like the video I have on my YouTube of me questioning an RCMP officer on chemtrails and really posing the moral question to him: why aren't you doing something about this? Do you not have children? And you know what I mean? And I think that can be found on Activist Questions RCMP on chemtrails or geoengineering. I can't remember what the title was, but I know it's Activist Questions RCMP on chemtrails or geoengineering.
On your Facebook page?
Yeah, it'd be on the YouTube channel. It's just my separate YouTube channel that I throw random videos on.
Is this just your name on that or what?
I'm not. Let me see. I'd have to be activist.
It's a race. We're in a race to see who can find it first. I got your tower Q&A. That one is it. The Reality Check channel?
Yeah, that's it. That's it right there.
It's funny. You get so many. That's the problem with social media. You get so many darn. You get so many darn passwords. You get so many darn accounts. It's hard to keep it all straight.
That's true. Yep.
So I'm on your page here. There's your Q&A with the tower employee. I'm just going to click that one while I'm hunting for the other one. But this is a great video where you go and talk to them. Royal RCMP.
Oh, just click back. I think it's on that channel.
I didn't see it there. Oh, speed activist pulls RCMP over.
For speeding. Yeah. So in this video, first I yell at him for speeding because he went by me just absolutely going way too fast in a national park zone when 2 weeks earlier I'd gotten pulled over in the national park zone for speeding. So then 2 weeks later for him to be speeding past me in the national park zone, really going fast, really, I was like, okay, that's enough. Like you can't be setting this double standard. So so as I was driving by him, I'm like, slow down. And then he turned on his lights because he was parked in the middle of the medium, and he came over, and I told him, I'm like, you were speeding, getting up to the medium up there ahead, just so you could park and get people speeding. You sped so that you could park and then start catching people speeding. I'm like, do you realize this? And then he started making up all these excuses, like it's his. I'll see
if I can get the audio. Can people hear that?
When I see you guys going faster than what the cars are actually driving.
Dominic, can you hear that?
Yeah.
Cool.
It's hard. It's a bit hard to hear.
I'm trying to have you guys explain some of the things that we do out here on the highway. Okay.
I'm gonna eat some oatmeal while we're watching this.
I had was a vehicle in front of me. I was monitoring his speed to see if he was speeding up, slowing down. Okay. In order for me to get my.
So he pretty much gave the excuse that it was his fan belts. The reason why he was speeding is because he has to use his radar gun, and the fan belts are causing his vehicle to go too fast.
I have that problem all the time with my car.
I know, man. The fucking fan belt. They're always making my car go too damn fast.
That's a cop he's lying to you. It's like, I'm pretty sure it's your foot on the accelerator that's making you go too fast.
Yeah, pretty much. I grill him for a while and tell him, you have children. Why aren't you doing anything about it? And he even uses the term. I didn't even mention to him chemtrails because I was actually wearing this shirt.
Yeah.
In the vehicle that day, surprisingly enough. And I said, do you know what this is? And he's like, chemtrails? And I'm like, yeah. I'm like, you're right. I'm like, so why aren't you doing anything about them? Because that day that I pulled over, the reason why I pulled over is not only because he was speeding, but it was so gray out and like there were so many trails out, it was just disgusting. And I'm like, oh my God, this guy's like needs to look up in the sky and deal with that first before he starts pulling people over for speeding.
Yeah, this is good stuff.
So, yeah, it's a funny one.
I haven't seen this one yet.
And then also on the channel, I have a video of, the movie They Live?
Yeah.
So I dubbed over it, and I made it so that it's meaning they see the chemtrails. So if you go back in my videos here, there's another one called They Live, and it's really funny. Have you seen They Live?
Oh yeah, it's classic.
Yeah.
Roddy Piper at his best.
Yeah, check this out. It's so funny and so good.
All right. Yeah, it's a classic flick.
Yeah. Puts his glasses on. He's like, what? Takes him off. It's a blue sky.
Oh, dude. You could do this. You could redo this on all sorts of topics, man. Classic. This lather, rinse, repeat on this one.
No, he's walking around all dazed and confused that he's waking up. Anywho, yeah, it's a good one. Some good funny clips.
You know, that's important. Is like it's important that we keep our sense of humor in these situations. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And what's Zach saying? Put on the glasses. Yeah, everybody, put on the glasses. Might as well enjoy life and make the most of it. And it actually is empowering. It's like you said, you know, when you pull over a cop for speeding, that's an empowering experience, right? It's like, hey, and you know, no harm came from it.
At the end of that video, he shook my hand and said, "Thank you for addressing your concerns."
Yeah.
So deep down inside of him, he knows there's a problem wrong. As much as his hands are tied, he gets where I'm coming from. And for him to just say that to me, that, you know, thanks for your time and, you know, for addressing your concerns, you know, at least he's taking recognition that what I'm saying is actually real and it's happening. And I'm asking him to please, you know, do something about it in your day-to-day life. Even if it's a small thing, like wake someone up on the force or I don't know, do something.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's like if everybody that is aware of these technologies made an effort to try to clue one person per day into it, it would snowball pretty fast.
It really would.
I mean, globally, there's got to be 10 million plus people who are concerned about this stuff around the planet, at least minimum.
Yeah,
you know,
there was actually an article I sent out to Jim today, and it was about this exact same thing that we're talking about, and it came from the Metro. Here, see if I can post it here for you to share on your screen.
Yeah, sure.
So this is the one that just came out, and this is actually, if you read in this study, came from Harvard. It was an actual Harvard study in terms of who believes in chemtrails and who doesn't believe in chemtrails.
Harvard put this out.
I'm pretty sure. I'd have to. I only took a look at it really quickly today because I skimmed over it, so I haven't like sat down and really observed it, but I did look at it, and it did say that
I'm waiting for it to show up. The comments have got a little lag on the broadcast. Maybe I can find it at the Wake Up News page. Let's see.
Oh yeah, I'll send it to your Wake Up News.
Well, if you just send it to me. Oh, did you send it to me as like a message?
Yeah, and here I can send it to you to your Mac.
Oh, I got it. Yeah, around a third of Americans believe in chemtrails.
Right.
So to Metro.
Right.
.co.uk. Here we go, team. There it is. Around a third of Americans now believe that chemtrails might be real, says Rob Waugh at metro.co.uk. Funny, he's a British guy. What percentage of Brits believe chemtrails are real? Man, I've Max Bliss is in the UK, Terry Lawton in the UK.
Yep.
Those guys have put out some crazy footage where it just looks like in London they're getting hammered. Or, you know, Max Bliss is in the south of France now, but Terry's videos, and, you know, a lot of people will post videos. It makes me, you know, to me, when you see a city just getting blanketed like that, it gives me the impression that, you know, calling it geoengineering doesn't address all of the agendas behind spraying things out of airplanes.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
So that's why I still use the term chemtrails. Deb Wolf's name dropping. Yeah, Max Bliss out of the UK. Well, he's south of France, but he's a British guy. His videos are always fun to watch. He's very empowering. You know, Max's stuff is great.
But you are right. England does get hit quite a bit because on my Facebook or on WeatherMod's Facebook page, our post that's pinned at the top, you don't have to go to it, but it's our video, that snippet video of our WeatherMod there. I don't know if you saw it today, of all the, it's like almost like a pump you up, like learn about it, WeatherMod. That video there, our biggest audience is from England. It shows on the stats in Facebook that the majority on that video is coming from England. So we have a lot of people from London, UK, really like gravitating towards WeatherMod because, like you were saying, they're getting hit really hard there. So
yeah,
they're looking for answers, right? So
Mike Giles chiming. Well, there I just did the I did the poll and I shared it on my Facebook page, and yeah, 40% says yes, they're totally real. Mike Giles chiming in the comments here on the video, trying to wake people up in Nebraska. It's a tough job, right? You know, Mike, we got you back. We know what you mean, and we sure appreciate you doing it. Dominic, do you have any advice for people? Like, how do you what's your experience with being aware of things, and what obstacles have you run into? What's been difficult for you, and how have you overcome adversity when it comes to your activism, your awareness, and spreading it in day-to-day life?
Well, I think I felt many people's frustrations in terms of trying to get through to public officials and stuff like that, and it always just seems like it's a dead-end door. You try and, you wake up your representatives, or you try and wake up, certain members. Like here in Canada, my girlfriend and I, Jolene, have both tried to wake up, the head of Climate Change Canada. I think his name's Mark Hickson or Andrew Hickson or one or the other. Anyways, he's head of Climate Change Canada, and we've been on the phone with him many times, and they literally deny what's going on. They deny that such programs exist, and they'll say that there is like a hail suppression program for like Alberta, but that they don't go any farther than that to say that. They're just like, but there's no really any rainmaking projects going on in Canada or anything like that. And meanwhile, I'm finding archives on the government's own website, like .gov for Canada, showing otherwise, that they use artificial ice nucleation, and they use rainmaking and all sorts of stuff, cloud seeding. So it's like they're involved in it all. And then to have head of Climate Change Canada saying that, brushing off our concerns, it's very disheartening. And it happens everywhere. It happens with, whether it's cops or whether it's, or university, meteorologists that maybe we're trying to get through, whoever it may be, it's tough, right? I think what it comes down to in the end is a tipping point, right, in consciousness. And that's the only way we're going to get there, is when we've reached that tipping point, because then you have numbers behind you, and you have people that are in the system as well that can actually act and do something about it, because they feel that they have enough numbers now around them to support them. And I think that's one of the battles we're having, is that people within the industry, they don't feel like even if they were to come out about it, maybe they do know something, that they're not going to, have enough support, because, like that article said, only 1/3. That's if that is true. It's not a lot, right? Especially if you're one of those people that are going to start going out and putting your life on the line to start, whistleblowing. Those people are really going to be targeted, right? And so I think it just comes down to the government just has everything in check. They're a bunch of gangsters, and you step out of line and they'll shoot you. They'll kill you. They'll make you disappear, whatever they got to do. And that's how it's always been run. So people are, very inclined to do anything or act like people who that are in positions of power, because, it involves their whole credibility and their whole lives, and them being, it wouldn't be good for them. So I think that's why we're having a hard time with this, right? And a lot of the people that are making these decisions are older people. They really are. Like a lot of these geoengineers and scientists and climatologists and meteorologists, they're not like young people like me out there that are doing, weather models. I'm sure there are. I'm not going to stereotype all of them, but a lot of them are older people, right? So you got this generation that is doing this, and then the younger generation that is trying to find out about what's going on, right? Yeah. So it's actually a quite interesting divide, to tell the honest truth.
Yeah. Yeah, Frankie J chiming in. The government's motto, deny and lie. You got it, Frankie J. Summing it up nicely there. This has been a great show, Dominic. I think we should probably wind it down, because we're like an hour and a half into it. I'm sure we could keep talking. If anybody has any other questions, lay them on me. Otherwise, I'm going to let Dominic go back to his girlfriend. Hopefully, have you got any snow up there yet, man? We
do, actually. My girlfriend and I went snowboarding this weekend that just passed for the first time of the season this year, because it just opened up. And weirdly enough, we found we got 2 runs of full fresh powder, like 3 feet deep. It was insane. And then the rest of the runs were tracked up from people because it was starting of the season. Everyone's out there. Yeah. But we were there like right in the morning, and we literally got like first runs. It was unreal.
Are the lifts running, or are you guys backcountry snowboarding?
Well, the lifts are running, but I do a lot of backcountry snowboarding as well. That's the majority of what I do. I actually got my avalanche certification safety training, so I had to do like a 2-day course that trains me how to, properly prepare in case of an avalanche. So I got my certification level 1. So I'm set to go into the backcountry. I just, it's fun. It's fun going out there, and I can't wait for the season coming up.
Well, if you ever come out to Jackson Hole, man, hit me up, because that's what I do. I ski my tits off every winter in the backcountry, and I'd love to go skiing with you or snowboarding. I snowboard too. I ski. I do them both. So hopefully we get out skiing someday. And Jim Lee actually it's funny. I checked in with Jim about the interview, and we hadn't talked on Facebook in a couple of years. And the last comment, or the last message he sent me was, "I'm coming out to ski. I'm bringing the wife." So I'm holding you to that, Jim. We're going to have a reunion out here in Wyoming. We're going to slay some powder. We're going to get the bolt cutters out, have some fun. We're building a microwave gun, and we're going to blow some things up with it because we can.
One thing I wanted to mention that I thought of the other day, and I thought it was really interesting. It's just a wild way of thinking. You know how there's like, they don't want to set the precedent to charge people for modifying the weather? Like, how they're not like charging all these people for doing this because it's apparently all okay. Well, what if some random person, like, I'm not going to say, let's just say me, for example. I'm not saying I'm going to do this, but let's just say me and a bunch of other people organize an event, the illegal cloud seeding experiment on this day. And we're going to try and make a cloud seeding, because there's actually a film titled The Tale of a Great, I can't remember what it's called, A Tale of a Rainmaker or something like that, and it came out from the National Film Board, and it's of these rainmakers in Canada that actually made their own generating machine back in the day, and they even did it recently too. So you can make your own cloud seeding generator machine, and then you just go ahead and post it online that you're going to do it illegally and see what happens. Maybe the authorities will come and arrest you. Okay, you're going to charge me now? You're going to set the precedent that you're charging me for modifying the weather? Go ahead. Now you're going to actually set the precedent.
You know what? We could do that. I'm going to do that tomorrow, man. I'm going to get out a propane tank and a leaf burner, some silver coins, and I'm just going to blast those fuckers with the leaf burner out there. Say I'm modifying weather. But actually, I'm way ahead of you on that, bro. I've been doing that for years. That's why the snow's so good in Jackson Hole, Dominic. It's because I add nanoparticles of silver, iodine, to all of the gasoline that's sold on the west side of the Teton Range. I go out there and, I open the things at the gas stations and fill it up. So everybody who's driving around over in Idaho, driving over the pass, they're all seeding clouds for me without even knowing it. It's coming right out of their tailpipes.
Yeah.
That's my big secret. But no, you're absolutely right. That's a good idea. Let's get Jim out here. I got a perfect mountain to test it on. I look out the window. I can see it right here. Prairie Peak. It's out my window, and it's good skiing. It'll be a lot better after our illegal cloud seeding experiment goes off without a hitch. On that note, I don't think we can do better than that one. I think I'm gonna close it out with this video that I put out a few years ago, since we're talking about skiing. It's Geoengineering is Genocide, but Goonies Never Die. It's a 20-minute little infomercial on chemtrails and geoengineering. And Dominic, thank you so much for being here tonight. It was great chatting with you, man.
Thank you.
It's funny how you and I met, small world. I didn't even know you were involved in weather modification history, but you shared the video to Wake Up News about your interactions with the 5G guy, and that's how I met you. So thank God that I'm checking the messages at Wake Up News.
Yeah, thank you so much. That helped out a lot, for sure.
Yeah, let's go shred some pow.
Yeah, for sure. Let me know, because I'll definitely come out and shred some powder.
Well, shit, I might come up there, man. It's not that far away.
Hey, we got an extra room, so.
I got an extra room, too. All right, bro. I'm signing off. Everybody's stoked in the comments. Everybody's happy. Dominic, thank you so much.
Thank you.
God bless. Have fun out there on the slopes.
Peace.
Peace. There you go, folks. That's probably our best show yet, I'd have to say. Wow, Dominic, what a nice guy. I'm going to bring in a vid here just to play for you because we're talking about skiing. We're talking about all this good stuff. And on that note, I'm signing off while this thing plays in the background. Y'all have a lovely, lovely evening. Tomorrow, we've got our boy Seth Lyon in the house. Seth Lyon is going to be talking about some wild stuff. And that's all I got to say about it. I'm finishing reading his book right now. If you want to support my work, go to my Patreon page. Believe it or not, I'm not made out of money. I got 14 patrons here, and I'm trying to get up to like $1,000 a month here so I can actually make a living at this and not have to go get another slave job. But enough of that. Here's a video I made about 5 years ago on the topic of geoengineering. Y'all take care. One love. Peace. That they're just now. Can you guys hear the audio on this? Let me know. Deb Wolf chimed in, no sound. If so, let me know. I'll just end this out right now. Because, I don't know. We're talking skiing. Somebody comment there if you got audio. So when these people come up to me and call me names and ridicule me because of my stance on geoengineering, I pity them. Because, you know, this is a topic that I was very... anybody hear me? No sound? All right. I'm going to wind this down. Sorry about that. I don't know why it's not working. Right on. Thanks for letting me know. That's a video. We got that posted at Wake Up News. It's called Geoengineering is Genocide, but Goonies Never Die. Check that one out if you like the topic. Again, that's a few years old, but I don't know. It's on the topic. And on that note, I am signing off for the evening. I love y'all. Again, tomorrow, huge interview. Thursday, Carrie Wedler on the program from the Anti-Media. Zachary Coons, thank you, bro. Give me a call after this. Let's talk some shop. We got to keep this thing rolling along. Okay, so you can hear the video while it's got the split screen going, huh? Weird. I don't know what the deal is there. Maybe it's because my mic is picking it up, but just check it out. I'm going to sign off. We're down to 22 viewers. I love y'all. Again, if you want to support my work, go to my Patreon page. I would certainly appreciate that. But, you know, don't put yourself in the poorhouse trying to take care of old Moggy. We're trying to do some good work here at Wake Up News, and we need your help. So, thank you so much. Your boy Mog, signing off. Love y'all.